So maybe more next time.
You already don't look as activisty and more lawyer.
So going back to the littering things. Still like in my life.
So next time.
They just litter very easily.
It's really funny that you say that.
Hi everyone, I think we're going to get started. Welcome to CEAC. I don't think we quite have a quorum, so I'm going to skip over the first item, which is approving the minutes and the agenda, because we don't have enough people here to do that. But I wanted to get started on announcements, because we do have a presentation starting at 3:20. We want to make sure that everyone makes an announcement who wants to. Gail, were you going to do the update on the procedure?
Sure.
Okay.
The environmental recording team is an internal team of the city. Go ahead. Do you want to do the minutes?
We don't have a
Okay, so I'll just quickly do the updates. The environmental recording team is an internal team. We have not met this year. Typically, we've always met quarterly, but due to staff incapacity, we haven't been able to even schedule the meetings, and we hope to get there soon. I think the good news is we've been working together as a team a lot now, so we know how to talk to each other through the climate action plan and climate adaptation work, and we did a whole thing just looking over the environmental green indicators like we did with your group last month. We brought that to a select group on Tuesday and had a good conversation with the mayor's office in the room, and Councilmember Glidden and some different department heads, so that was interesting. Recreational fires, the next thing on the list. You may remember this group went through a long process along with the Public Health Advisory Committee last year, making recommendations to the city on what to do about recreational fires as it relates to air quality. This group's recommendations were pretty much taken word for word. I think Public Health Advisory Committee took them and then moved them a little bit more in the public health direction. But anyway, one of your strongest recommendations was to change the city ordinance regarding recreational fires so that those with high air quality alert days, that rec fires would be banned, and that went through council and passed. Your other ideas about doing more promotion and better things on the website, that happened almost immediately after your recommendation. So thank you very much. There's been some press on that, and obviously when we start having those air quality alert days is when we're going to get the word out even more. Climate action plan, Brendan, you want to give a quick update there?
Sure. So the update isn't hugely different than last month when I talked about it. The steering committee has made their final recommendation just due to kind of scheduling challenges. We'll be going to the Regulatory Energy Environment Committee of the City Council with the final document on June 17th. So that's coming up here in a little bit, and in advance of that meeting I'm going to be sending out notices to all the steering committee members and working group members and CEAC members to kind of alert them of the date and time, location, and everything like that for that meeting. We're still talking to the Chair Glidden, about exactly the format. There may or may not be time for public testimony, but we'll keep you in the loop on that.
And on that subject, we did, at our last meeting, we approved a letter from CEAC to the City Council about just in general support of the climate action plan. And I decided it would make more sense to actually send it closer to the meeting time so that it gets sent out maybe with the agenda. So we have not yet sent that letter. Yeah, and then the other letter that we talked about at our last meeting, which was the letter regarding reliability, utility reliability, and representation at the PUC. That letter went out on May 8th. So that's why don't we go ahead and finish announcements, and then we're going to backtrack and approve the minutes and the agenda. Does anyone else have announcements?
I have one I'd love to share with you guys. This is a program that I am personally running with CERTS. It is called Make a Splash, and it's been going on for quite some time, and it's wrapping up at the end of August. So It's a program where we basically negotiated really low prices with a product provider for these pre-rinse spray valves. These are the little like hanging from a hose in a commercial kitchen to pre-rinse dishes before it goes into the washing machine. Some kitchens only have that and no washing machine. And then these are faucet aerators. These can be screwed onto the end of a faucet to regulate the flow down to a lower flow rate so that you're not going through so much water when the water is running. We make no money off of this. It is a non-for-profit program where we just arranged for good prices. We simply want these things out in the community, getting used, saving energy, saving water, and then ultimately saving on people's utility bills, which is great. So I brought the brochures. If you're part of an organization that could benefit from this, I welcome you to take it to them directly, or let me know of who I could speak to directly about the program to get them engaged. It's an easy online order form, just like you're ordering anything else off the internet with a PayPal payout, but you can use a credit card and everything. And if your organization can't pay by credit card, we can do invoices too. And then, so yeah, if you're part of an organization, or if your favorite restaurant could benefit from this, places like that, your church or other congregation, community centers, those kinds of places, really, like, a lot of people can benefit from this. It's just been challenging to get the word out, so I would greatly appreciate everyone's help in spreading the word a little bit. I'll pass these around both ways, and then definitely let me know if you have any questions.
So another item we have on the announcements is that for people who are interested, we are going to have a social hour today after the meeting at the Crooked Pint, which is just around the corner. Everyone's welcome. And I also wanted to throw out for discussion our July meeting. So at this point, we do have meetings scheduled in June, July, and August, and typically there's 1 month when we don't in the summer. When we had our meetings the first Wednesday of the month, it often conflicted with July 4th, so that was kind of easy not to have that meeting because people didn't want to do it. So I'm wondering what people think if we would like to cancel July and have a social gathering, maybe yes,
now that we've changed the day, now we're conflicting with Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we've already got a month that's been canceled.
And we did vote, we did agree last meeting to have, right.
But so we're still missing.
We're down a month, you're right.
Getting rid of Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
We're gonna abolish months that's do away with like February.
So you'd be in favor of keeping?
Yeah, we already got one.
I think too, I think it's late enough in July that this is the fourth week and,
Yeah.
that's a fun conflict.
We could still do a social in addition to,
Yeah.
that's always kind of fun, like at a place or someone's house. Yeah,
That's easy. Okay. That makes sense. We'll keep the July meeting. Oh, I wanted to make another announcement. We talked about this at the water subcommittee meeting, but I'm in the process of arranging for a tour of the wastewater treatment plant in St. Paul. And some people on CEAC had expressed interest in the tour. So I just sent out a doodle poll. So we ended up, the water group decided that first thing in the day would be the easiest. It's about an hour and a half tour, and they have to end by 4:30. So anything else would be kind of a big chunk out of the middle of the day. So we were leaning towards 8 a.m. and then in negotiating with the tour people and the dates that we submitted, we've ended up with 3 dates, which is pretty narrow, but I think it's
June 11th, 13th, and 20th.
so if you're June 11th, 13th, and 20th are the 3 options, and everyone should have received the doodle poll. So if you're interested, just respond to the poll, and then we'll go with the date where the most people can attend.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. We decided earlier in the summer would be better than later in the summer, because it won't be as hot and stinky. And earlier in the day, right? Yeah. Minimize the stinkiness. Any other announcements?
I think at some point it would be great for this group to get a legislative update. Ross wanted to Ross wasn't able to be here today, he has a sick child, but he wanted to talk a little bit about the energy omnibus bill and what passed, because there were some great things that passed there. There's probably things that Daryl's worked on, and, you know, maybe that could be a future agenda item, but
That might be
there
good
was
for the
quite,
next
there was
one.
quite a change in the legislature, and while we didn't get everything through, project stewardship got some things through, so, that's one
Put that on
thing.
the agenda.
Yeah, so maybe if we could ask somebody to take on waste, and somebody to take on air, and somebody to take on water, or something like that would be great.
Yeah, by that point, there should be various groups who put out their legislative updates that we can
Mhm.
borrow.
That's a great idea. Okay, so I got that for next month's agenda. So I wanna backtrack, but before we look at the approve the minutes in the agenda, can we just do introductions since we have a lot of guests and visitors today? And we all have name tags, but you don't, so, I'll just start, we can go around the CEAC table, and then if the people in the back would like to introduce themselves too. I'm Sarah Stoneheimer, I'm the current chair of CEAC.
I'm Gail Frost, I work for the city of South.
Jameson Tussner on CEAC.
Michelle Schroeder on CEAC.
And Daryl Gerber, I'm vice president, vice chair.
I'm a
Can you
controller.
amend it?
Operations.
I'm Brendan Slaughterback, I'm sustainability staff.
I'm Kevin Banks, and I'm with the CEAC.
I'm Roxanne O'Brien, and I'm on CEAC as well.
I'm Alexis Trochinitz, and I'm on CEAC.
Tony Eno, Kevin McCounty, CEAC.
Pat Malloy, SEAC.
Brian Ross, CEAC.
Annette Ronzalez, CEAC.
Diane Jones, CEAC, Minneapolis Schools.
Oh, Malia Hassan, CEAC.
Yeah, I'm Mike Bull with the Center for Energy and the Environment.
I'm Rick Carter with LHB.
Julia Eagles, I just started interning with the Sustainability Office here at the city.
I'm Renee Van Sicklen. I work for the Minneapolis Park Board, but I'm here as a resident.
I'm Kelly Schmidt, and I'm a student from the University of Minnesota.
Andrew Manueli, Humphrey student, just like Kelly.
Andrew Rockwood, same as them. I'm Mark Oyas. I'm a consultant with working for CenterPoint. Normally, you'll see another guy in a suit named Al Swintek sitting in this chair.
Georgia Rubenstein, also at Humphrey School. If we could just make sure that the guests sign in, is there a sheet somewhere out
Yep.
there?
Coming around.
Thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to move to approve the April minutes?
Second.
Any revisions or discussion? Some typos, does that matter? No? All right, let's skip the typos. Gail says no.
It does.
As long as it's not substituted. Okay, all in favor of approving the April minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? And, the agenda, we need to approve the agenda. I don't think we have any changes to this. Would you like to move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Any changes or additions? All in favor of approving the agenda as it stands?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks. All right. We're early. This is great. Rick, I think you're up. Sorry, it's early.
Do you want to do an introduction?
Sure,
Yeah.
or,
No, I'd like you to make the introduction because you know Rick and I don't.
okay, Rick Carter, works with RHB Architects. He has been doing, yeoman's work on collecting community, energy waste, water, and travel data, for a project called the Regional Indicators Initiative, which is funded by the MPCA and also a project of the ULI, Regional Council of Mayors. So, I think CEAC is fairly familiar with the greenhouse gas inventory that Minneapolis has done. This is similar work. It collects, it includes potable water, which we kind of have separately, but, and it's also for, are you at over 20 now?
20 cities.
20 cities in the metro area. I'm not going to say too much more because has got lots of information here, but, as CEAC knows the importance of kind of metrics and indicators, I think this is kind of broadening that message to a bigger audience in the metro. So with that, I'll let Rick take it away.
Thanks. So I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly, but feel free to interrupt. Just raise your hand or ask a question if you have one, and I'll try and leave a few minutes at the end. As Brandon said, this is really, I think, a lot about, in addition to all the great things that are happening in Minneapolis, where I live and work, what's going on outside of Minneapolis, and how does that translate to other metro areas? So I'm sitting in a room one day a couple of years ago with a number of people who are the environmental committee for the Urban Land Institute of Minnesota Regional Council of Mayors, which in and of itself is pretty amazing. It's one of the only regions in the country where 40-some mayors, including the mayors of the biggest cities in the metro area, get together once a month and sit around the table and talk. And that's kind of unheard of. So the fact that they have 3 committees and one of them is an environmental committee, I think is a pretty big deal. It's chaired by John Charbot from Bonestro and Debbie Gotel, who's the mayor of Richfield. And we were asked by some people involved in Green Step Cities, which is currently sits in MPCA, which is a program. I describe it, I'm an architect, so I say it's like LEED for cities. So it's a list of best practices. If you do a certain number of them, you become a Green Step City. Maybe not quite as formal, but essentially that's the case. So we were asked to help pick 5 cities out of about 20 that were interested in becoming early pilots for Green Step, which was, again, just a couple of years ago. Today there are probably about 50 cities participating, but at the time MPCA wanted to really kind of track a few. So we started having a discussion about how would cities know if they did 14 best practices that what they wanted to have accomplished actually happened. And so it's an obvious gap. You know, most cities don't measure these things on a citywide scale. You're very unique, or we, the city of Minneapolis, is very unique. So you can certainly look at me, but the slides will probably be useful as well, so you have to look back and forth. It's not, I like to not refer to it as a greenhouse gas emission inventory. That is sort of a byproduct of it. It's really an inventory of energy, potable water, travel, waste, and greenhouse gas emissions for 20 cities for 4 years, from 2008 to 2011. So when I started this, I had no idea that that could even be done. I mean, I sort of understood that it was being done in isolated cases by a few cities, but at that scale, with all those metrics, we really weren't sure. So the first goal was to just figure out if you could actually do it. We had a pilot originally, Edina, Falcon Heights. We had a lot of cities say, outside of Minneapolis and St. Paul, well, I think we've done that. And when we dug, they hadn't. You know, they maybe had done it for their own buildings. But, you know, we stumbled across the city of Falcon Heights, where Michael Orange, who's a consultant on the team, was working, and they were doing some carbon baselining, and they had clearly done some citywide metrics. So we kind of got started with Edina, Falcon Heights, and St. Louis Park. Worked for a while to collect 2 years worth of data for those 3 cities. And then kind of raised the bar with the funding. We do have some funding from each of the cities. We have funding from the MPCA, and we have funding from the Department of Commerce, Energy Division. And they were all interested in somewhat different things. We decided to try and get 20 cities, which we have done, and get 4 full years of data. Because you have the data, I'm kind of a data geek, we start doing a lot of comparisons, and I'll show you some interesting trends that we didn't know what to expect, so it's hard for me to say we didn't expect them, but they're obvious and might be interesting. And then kind of the rest of it is, what do you do with this information once you have it? That's a good question. There are a lot of different ways you can do that. I'll highlight the second bullet point on the right. The Department of Commerce was very adamant about making sure that this information didn't sit in a report that looks like this and on a shelf somewhere. So we're actually putting the information into a website. All 20 cities have agreed to share the data publicly. So the information will be able to be accessed and sorted publicly probably within a month.
Are all 20 cities Green Step cities?
They are not. I can't tell you exactly, but I do have a map, so if you're aware, you might be able to sort of spot check. So there it is. So This map shows our 20 cities in kind of and by us, I really call this a